on this computer. Okay, I am recording now. So Joyce, can you just tell us a little bit about some of your current efforts in education and what's going on these days?
Well, as everybody in the world, we're just so busy. We did have a move of Shelton School from one facility to another, a very big 350 square foot building on 30 acres. We now have almost 1,000 students at Shelton from early childhood through grade 12. These are all children with various types of learning differences. And of course, that's the dedication of Shelton School since 1976. So in the outreach department where I am now, we are training people constantly. We are training in the C program, our sequential English education program, to teach reading, writing, and spelling. And we also combine that program with Montessori language. So we delivered 3 this summer virtually, and we have 1 going on right now. We have another one that will be offered in January. So this really is the silver lining of having to quickly change from everything face-to-face to being able to deliver the course virtually. And it's working extremely well. We're really, really thrilled with it. We also delivered MACAR virtually last summer. And very fortunately, the summer before, we had recorded the entire 8 days of training. So we had many videos that we had done and a few more that we added that helped so much in delivering MACAR virtually. So we could actually show people what we were talking about. How do you apply Montessori to children with various types of learning differences, which requires a real understanding of their learning profile. Where are their strengths? Where are their weaknesses? What does that mean in working with them, even in presenting each lesson in Montessori? So all of that's been very, very busy. Busy also writing a grant for a North Mississippi literacy project for early intervention, and also talking with a brother and sister who were born in South America actually, and are interested in opening schools for learning different children in Central and South America, and using Montessori and the MACAR strategies and the multisensory structured language remediation like C in every one of those schools. So that's a wonderful dream. I hope they can bring it to fruition, and I'll do everything I can to help them.
It's incredible, all the good work you're up to, Joyce, and I know you'll have lots of the success. Can you tell us a little bit about your book, Montessori Strategies for Children with Learning Differences?
Absolutely. So if you don't know about it, those who are watching, I don't know how well you can see this cover. And that happens to be one of my grandchildren who is at Shelton, and at that time was 3 years of age, tracing the sandpaper letter. I have 13 grandchildren, so I can put lots of pictures on lots of books. The book, as you know, Joe, was written for Montessori trained educators to help them know more about helping children with learning differences. It was also written with the idea that general and special education people who work with children with learning differences would like to know these Montessori strategies that can be so great, so helpful. And then there are a lot of pieces of information for parents And so I'm hoping that it will be helpful. In the first of the book, you may remember, Joe, we indicated chapter by chapter who this chapter was written for. So the first chapter was the philosophy and the history of Dr. Maria Montessori and the Montessori method. And that was put in here, even though Montessorians would know that, others would need a little background. So it's not a lengthy chapter, it's just a brief summary of Montessori and her work. Chapter 2, however, goes into details on the curriculum. And since some people are not Montessori trained, we do mention a lot of Montessori lessons and materials. And so we have pictures for those so that a person who's reading it can visualize what are they talking about. Chapter 3 talks a lot about early childhood development and Montessori's 4 planes of development for the typically developing child. And then what do the 4 planes look like for atypically developing children? Chapter 4 goes into a lot of detail about the strategies that we teach in MACAR. And chapter 5 talks about applying Montessori to children with speech disorders and oral language disorders. And chapter 6 talks about applying Montessori and the Montessori lessons with children with written language disorders, reading, writing, spelling. So this is specifically for the dyslexic population, but it can help. Many strategies in here can help all children in learning to read. And in our classrooms and in MACAR, we combine a multisensory structured language method with Montessori language, and it combines seamlessly. It's really amazing. But they're both explicit, multisensory, sequential, and so they integrate very, very well. And then in chapter 7, we talk about ADHD and how this child in a Montessori classroom needs more attention from the teacher and is going to need more repetitions of presentations. The teacher has to learn how to be the child's partner in attention, focus, and concentration, and be, content with that. They don't have an inhibition control system, and they don't have a focused attention system. So if we don't help them from the outside, they cannot do it. It's not won't, it's can't. In chapter 8, we talk about autism spectrum, and that was written by Michelle Lane, who combines Montessori with ABA therapy. And chapter 9, we talk about working with children with intellectual giftedness all the way through the spectrum of typically developing children and to children who have intellectual deficiencies. And then in chapter 10, we talk about assessment, and not to help a teacher be a diagnostician, but just to be able to help her read reports that her school might get and she might get where testing has been done on a student, and she may not be familiar with all the jargon and terminology. And so we were hoping to be very helpful with that. That was written by myself with Dr. Laurie Ames. She is the director of the Evaluation Center at Shelton, many years of experience, excellent diagnostician, and especially uniquely qualified to help parents understand the learning differences of very young children. So that's the book. And it was a joy to write it, but it was a sort of an agony also, as anybody will tell you who's written a book.
Well, it's quite a wealth of knowledge, and it's very I would say benevolent of you to pass that on to readers, and an incredible value for $29.95 at Montessori Services.
Well,
So,
so you know that I wrote it with Dr. Sylvia Richardson, my dear friend who has passed away. And she was the person who led me to Montessori education. And we talked for years about writing a book to share what we had learned in our careers, which have been long. And we finally started doing it. And it took at least 5 years to whittle it down to something that we could get published.
well, it's very touching, the way you worked with Sylvia, and I know she was a bit of a mentor to you, and
But
it's touching to see how you work with Amy and Michelle and offer your mentorship to so many people out there. I would just say it is October 16th, 2020, and we're just making a little video. Is there anything else you want to tell people out there, Joyce?
well, I would like them to know that we've always done the MACAR course at Shelton in July, and it's been 8 days with 2 additional days working in our classrooms. And so that was the traditional model. But this summer, like everybody else, we had to quickly change to a virtual model. And we have a lot of videos and can do that. And so now we can deliver this anywhere in the world, anytime that anybody wants it. And so I think that is the silver lining in the COVID piece.
That's great. And I'll remind people they can go to shelton.org, I think it is. And I'll put links down below for everyone to see. And thank you so much for speaking with us, Joyce.
Thank you, Joe.
Absolutely. Okay, I will